Meet the computer you can talk to. With Copilot on Windows, working, creating, and collaborating is as easy as talking. Got writer's block? Share your screen with Copilot Vision to help spark inspiration, and use Copilot Voice to have a conversation and brainstorm ideas. Or maybe you need some tech help. With Copilot Vision, Copilot sees what you see. Let Copilot talk you through step-by-step guidance so you can master new apps, games, and skills faster. Try now at windows.com/Copilot.
Welcome to episode 107 of the High Volume Hiring Podcast. I am Stephen Rothberg. I am one of your two co-hosts, and I am excited for a couple reasons about today's episode. One is fellow Canadian, although he lives in a much better city than where I grew up in. He's in Vancouver. I grew up in Winnipeg, but please don't hold that against me. And the other reason is we got somebody here on the TA side. They know more than those of us on the vendor side. But speaking of somebody who's been on both sides of the desk, Jeanette Leeds, my co-host. Good to see
Hi,
you.
everyone. Good to see you too. I too am excited for today's episode. We have Brad Clark. And for those who do not know Brad, not just the global head of talent acquisition and employer branding at Article, he's also on the, I don't want to say vendor because I feel like it's a partner side, right? He's also a co-founder of Cura, which is, so let me if I have this right, an AI-powered SMS-based instant messaging solution. So that does all sorts of stuff. I got
You
it?
did it better than I can do usually.
Woo!
So,
Love
yeah.
it. Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thrilled to have you here. So why don't we give our listeners, before we get into our topic about like automating messages and your ATS and improving the like candidate experience, the fish, all that good stuff, just like give us a little more background on you. Like, I love the combination of you got two things going on, wearing two hats. And as we said in the green room, that makes you super powerful because you can see.
I don't know. It makes me super busy. That's what I mean. I don't know if it's super powerful. It makes me super busy. Yes. So I mean, rewind back. I mean, I've been in the recruitment TA space for almost 20 years now. I started on the recruitment vendor side as well. So I've seen both sides. Later, then consulted a consulting firm. Worked for a bunch of like companies like Samsung and Boeing and Best Buy. A lot of fun stuff there. But then I ended up co-founding Cure, which is called Rectex. It's SMS powered platform. We just recently baked some AI into it. Now at this stage, I am more strategic advisor. My co-founder, Brian, runs the day-to-day, which is really exciting. But that was really primarily driven because we just weren't happy with candidate communication. And we couldn't afford a tool we liked. We couldn't, they're too expensive or too complex. So like, we're not the only one facing this problem. So we ended up saying, hey, we're going to bootstrap some technology. We know the problem. We're in the space and we're tired of other people trying to solve it for us. So we're going to do that. So that is ongoing and running. But my day job is at Article. Article is primarily a direct-to-consumer furniture brand. We're headquartered here in Vancouver. We have offices head office in Vancouver, office in Vietnam, and then big, large distribution warehouses across the U.S. So Canadian-based company, but about 95% of our sales are in the U.S. And so my team is responsible for global hiring. So Vietnam, and then also all across North America, and a couple of remote people, which are Latin America and other places as well. So it's fun wearing two hats. I mean, one is it's very product focused, but it's, again, more strategic advisory, and then my day to day is really running this team, which is, as a consumer brand, so I'm excited to talk today, is candidate messaging is super important because our candidates are also our customers, and with the deal of volume we have, I mean, we shut jobs down pretty quickly, but we're still having 20, 30,000 applicants per year. Imagine then equate that times the average cost of a product. That's actually a big impact to sales if
it goes sideways.
Go sideways. Yeah, you got
This
it.
is going to be an ATS heavy conversation.
Love it.
Right?
Which is not a four-letter word. Let's be clear.
Right, exactly. So one of the things that you just touched on, Brad, was the shutting the Recs down pretty quickly. And I see, and I think anybody who's on LinkedIn or has these conversations at all, I see posting after posting after posting. Posted a job, got 2,000 applications. Now, if you're hiring 200 people, that's a good thing. If you're hiring one person, that's not a good thing. What does your team do in terms of, when you say shutting it down pretty quickly? talk with us about the strategy behind
Yeah.
that.
Okay. So there's a couple things we're doing right now. One is we are posting our job confidentially. So we're sharing the link to our network first. And so
Hmm.
it's not hitting the job boards first. And so this is a little bit like a pre-sale, kind of like you want to get a concert pre-sale. So, hey, you're a fan of this band. You get early access to buy tickets because we don't want someone who can just do the job. We want someone who could work, who wants to work here. And so if you sign up for job notifications, if you follow us on LinkedIn, follow our company or my team, you get early access. And so that's number one. And then referrals as well. So everyone gets typically a couple days early access. We want those people in first, give them a head start. They know who we are. They've already kind of signed up for it. Then really it's a judgment call. So it's not a number. And so like you said, I mean, it depends on the number of people we're hiring, but it tends to that quality. So my team is looking actively at those applicants. What is the quality? How viable are they? In terms of like, are we just getting tons of noise or are we getting people who look really viable? And then we want to shut it down. There's no point in collecting resumes. For us, speed is our advantage. And so we really want to run a tight process. And so some days jobs are only open a couple days. It's really, we'll get to that volume. We say, hey, we've got enough viable candidates, shut it down. The other part is we also want to run an agile like process. So when we don't want to collect resumes, because then a bunch of people are going to apply, they never hear from us, they're mad at us. The second part is we run the process. If it works out, what we tried to hire is who we actually are able to interview and assess. Great. Then we'll move forward, get into the offer stage. If not, then we can learn, figure, hey, was our titling correct? Were our expectations correct? Were we assessing correctly? Was our compensation correct? We can then adjust it, put it back out to market quickly. Rather than run this huge waterfall like process and it's slow, we lose a bunch of candidates to competitors, people get choked, and they just, get this pool of people who found jobs elsewhere or just are mad they never heard back from us. So we run it tight and then we can run cycles that way.
Follow-up question. When you say that your team will shut the posting down, kind of sounds to me like you're making a subjective decision and manually doing that. That there's not like an algorithm or a certain number of applications. Once you hit 50 or 100, it automatically shuts down. Am I right?
I mean, subjective feels like the wrong term, so to speak. I mean, I think it's more judgment based. I think it would be,
Okay.
maybe a nicer way of saying subjective, but yeah, that's exactly it. Because it's going to depend. It's going to depend on what the recruiter's seeing in the applicant flow. So we tried some automations. We built some out which can do that. Problem was, is it vary too much, and the automations would be just too general. So again, like we have a warehouse role. We expect to have a ton of applicants. We need high volume because we're going to be hiring more than one person at a time. I'm hiring a senior accountant. I don't need 2,000 applicants. I probably need 100, 150. I'm going to get some good people in that. And then we just focus on that group.
I'm gonna go back to your pre-sale analogy. I'm a huge live music fan, so I'm like,
Okay.
ooh, and the idea around like taking consumer type of concepts, right, and putting this into this experience. I know that you're doing some interesting things around local and then non-local applicants, which I would
Mm.
imagine again, I'm going on this concert thing where I'm like, okay, I'm traveling somewhere, or I'm gonna have a different process to like see a concert when I go to Vegas or something. We were talking or Nashville versus here in New York. So if you could talk a little bit about that from again, that standpoint. I think that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, well, on the local, non-local, so we really invested a lot in automations, and that's just something which is hard to get my team on board for. To be honest, like it's one of those things where they start and they go, "Why are we doing these things?" But they snowball and they build a lot of impact. And so we now have, if we are open to local and non-local candidates, because some jobs we're not. It doesn't make sense. We know there's enough local. We're not. It's just not reality. So we're going to prioritize local. But it is a job that's hard to find. You'll then automatically get moved to a different stage, which then an automatic message will come out and ask you some specific questions because in our situation, Vancouver's really expensive to live in. It's not a huge town, so there's not a ton of opportunity. And so a lot of people say, oh yeah, I'd love to move to Vancouver. It's beautiful there. I love the mountains, the beach, and all these great things. And then they go, oh wow, I didn't realize what a house would cost me, my mortgage and my rent would be, and I didn't realize all these other things. And then they get cold feet. And so we want to understand what is the interest up front. So automatically, if someone's non-local, they get moved to a different stage in the ATS. They automatically get these information where we ask them some probing questions, like what's driving your decision beyond this job? Is there something where they say, hey, I actually grew up here. I've got family here. I'm highly invested in me coming to Vancouver regardless of this job. And I've done the research and they can kind of prove that. It's like, okay, great. That helps in the vetting versus someone who's like, I just automatically sent out 100 applications. And especially if AI apply blast, that's the real problem. So like if they're actually taking the time to reply and answer, that's showing some interest versus just I sent my AI apply bot and it just spammed everywhere. And so I didn't even realize where it's located.
Hey, we're the payroll baddies, and our mission is to make payroll fun and relatable.
And call out industry when we hear it.
You gotta call it out. You gotta call it like you see it. But we also gotta shine a light on all those unsung payroll heroes out there, making sure we get paid.
Yeah, those are the real payroll baddies out there, and we love sharing their stories and showing them love.
With gold chain and everything, baby.
By the way, SAP is the best payroll out there, and if you don't like it,
Get out.
I'd love giving a candidate the opportunity to come to you and dispel some misconceptions that a reasonable recruiter might have, right? Like you said, the geographic location, we see that all the time at College Recruiter because a candidate might grow up in New York, like where Jeanette is, might go to school here in Minneapolis where I'm at, but their girlfriend is from St. Louis and they want to live in St. Louis after graduation.
Sure.
Where are they? Like, so an employer in St. Louis is going to look at that and say, well, they're in Minneapolis and maybe they'll notice that they grew up in New York. They've got no ties to St. Louis. They're not here, rejected.
Yeah, no ties on paper. Well, there is a huge tie.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And so I get the fact in a high volume environment, if you're hiring, 200 people to start on Monday in your warehouse, you don't have time to go through that. But if it's more of an evergreen even type of a situation, I think that's great. Now, before we jumped on, we were also talking about different messaging at different points in the application process. What I've seen anecdotally from a lot of employers is either no messaging at all, we're not even going to acknowledge your receipt, or it's kind of like, we got your application, we'll talk to you if we wish to talk to you. And then maybe also when they're rejected, but a lot of times not even when they're rejected. And it's kind of sounded to me like you have different messaging for different candidates, depending upon when they dropped out or when your team essentially chose for them to drop out. So you talk to us about those.
Yeah, so coming off, because there's stuff I love geeking out. So if I go too far on this, please give
We
me
love
the,
this stuff.
give me the, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. You're. It's going to be a challenge for you to out-geek me, but let's give it a
all
try.
right. So it starts, we actually have custom messaging for like even your application received. And so if you apply to a job in Vietnam, the messaging we send you is going to be different in Vietnam than it is if you are in North America or as if you're a high volume parcel. And so reason is we want to set expectations right up front. And so if you're applying to high volume, we will let you know, hey, by the way, you're competing against hundreds of other people for your job. So we're setting those expectations. It's highly competitive. If this is like an HQ-based job, we're going to talk about things like what our AI usage is. And so for candidate behaviors around AI, because we're setting expectations saying, hey, this is part of the process. We understand AI is now part of how you apply, how you prepare for interviews, how you interview. But like, here's what we expect. And if you don't follow these rules, you're going to get kicked out. And here's how we use AI. So there's different things. So right from the actual application stage, that other big one there is, so like we segment it. So we segment based on, it could be type of job, could be location, other different segments. We have probably about over 100 automations we've built in, which automatically will reject about 20% of our applicants. Now, the issue for this is most people send an automation and they say what you do. They say a generic, hey, thanks for applying, no information. And so it kind of goes, okay, why did I get rejected? What's the problem here? And so these automations, the recruiter will select which automations they use based on the job, based on what they're looking to do. And so it's basically just saying you're not viable for the job. And so I'm hiring a packaging engineer. They need to have an engineering degree. You don't have an engineering degree. An automation, you select, no, I don't have an engineering degree. You're going to get an automated email, which will then say, hey, Stephen, thanks for applying. However, we need someone with an engineering degree. If when you applied, this was a mistake and you actually did have an engineering degree, but you just selected the wrong button, please reapply. Otherwise, keep in contact and look for other jobs that are more suitable. And so it's timely. So that automation will typically send them around 2 hours after, just in case, give a bit of a buffer. And so you're not going to black hole. And you're also understanding specifics of why you got rejected. So you go, oh, okay, I didn't get a job because I didn't have an engineering degree. That makes sense. Or I didn't get that job because whatever the different criteria is, and it's, you might not agree with the decision, but at least you know the decision. And so there's a specific thing. So there's all these automations and they all have custom emails built into that rejection. So there's that piece of it. Then there's also the manual side where my team's going through and making decisions and saying, hey, who's the most viable candidate? What's that look like? And then we've got a host of different, and then they can select and say, hey, this is a rejection because you don't have enough warehouse experience. We got a ton of people with more warehouse experience. Not saying you don't meet the minimum threshold, because a lot of people meet the minimum, but we have people who are better. And that's tough. And that's tough to hear. And people go, why did I get it? I hit all the criteria. It's like, you did, but you're competing and you're applying against hundreds of other people. Like, we're literally hiring, it's like 0.2% of our applicants are the number we hire. And it's not a flex. I mean, I wish it was actually a higher amount, which more people would self-select out, but you're competing. And so that way, at least you understand, hey, I know I have the basics, but other people were better. May not be happy about that decision, but at least I know. And so that's where we're really using these custom emails is, and again, it took a lot of time to build these up, but for us, again, consumer brand, it's so important that at least people understand the why. You don't have to agree with it, but at least you understand put some thought into this. It wasn't some strange mythical ATS robot that rejected you, which I know there's a million LinkedIn posts that these things don't really exist, but like, you made a decision and and now you know.
I love that. I mean, in some ways, what I'm hearing, it's harder to get into your company for presumably certain jobs than like my kid's applying to college now, so,
I know.
versus like
Yeah.
applying to certain colleges. It's like, whew. But I love the fact that you're actually giving out the information and the feedback and the reasoning. Like it's just that transparency is huge. I want to go back to something you said. You touched on a little bit earlier with the change management around where you're talking about the local and non-local and some of the adding the workflows in. And I would imagine, well, we know like there's so much change going on in the market right now, whether it's new tech, new process, new everything. How do you manage, like for all of our listeners, like how are you managing your team and that change? How do you get them on board with some of this change? Which is like, it was such a broad question, but I feel like everyone right now is, I don't want to say struggling, it's a challenge.
And we're just about out of time. So, like, see if you can hit in like 15 seconds.
15 seconds, then go. I know, sorry, I had to ask it.
Build a playbook and document everything. And so everything documented, you have a playbook, which then lists, you can go there, there's one source, and then you can go document every change, do version control so you can experiment, you can rewind change, and think of change like a one-way decision or two-way decisions. Two-way decisions, make it quick, learn from it, you can always take it back. One-way decisions, make as late as possible and includes many people as possible. So one-way decisions and two-way decisions, super important. Start thinking those ways and document everything. Build a playbook with version control.
I love
Awesome.
it. That is like the perfect way to end.
Yes.
There we go.
Thank you for using automation to bring back more humanity.
That's the goal.
Brad, thank you so much. This was amazing.
This was great. Thank you.
Until
Cheers, Brad.
next time. Okay, take care, everyone.
Hey, Ryan Reynolds here. Wishing you a very happy half-off holiday because right now Mint Mobile is offering you the gift of 50% off unlimited. To be clear, that's half price, not half the service. And Mint is still premium unlimited wireless for a great price. So that means a half day, yeah?
Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.